Celestia is rapidly becoming a flourishing ecosystem, and with that, there are a ton of different projects building on the chain, and with that, a ton of airdrops. So in this video, guys, I'm going to tell you all the airdrops that are currently on my radar and how to get set up here to make sure you capitalize on all of the upcoming drops. Now let's get into it. Now, I just released a video a couple of days ago talking about why I'm so bullish on the Celestia ecosystem. Part of it is the tech, and the bigger part is all of the different airdrops that we're expecting to get just simply by staking on this chain. Now, if you look at this graph here, guys, you're going to be able to see all of these different projects that are building in the Celestia ecosystem. And what's really interesting is a lot of these projects are kind of business to business projects where they're simply using the Celestia data availability layer as well as consensus layer. So a lot of these different projects are roll-ups for different L2s as well as projects that are building the infrastructure for this new modular technology. And because of that, a lot of these you don't actually have to do anything outside of simply staking your TIA, and I'm about to go over everything you need to know about that. And yes, guys, this is one of the reasons that I like Celestia a lot more than a lot of the other Cosmos chains, simply because a lot of these airdrops are going to be passive rather than us having to be as active. But I'll still go over some of the ones that you guys have to look out for and some of the different tasks that you may have to do. To get started here, you're going to need a Kepler or a Leap wallet. I'm not going to make a full guide here on how to set all of this up because there's so many different guides out there, but make sure you have one of these wallets installed. I personally really like Kepler. Once you guys have your Kepler wallet set up, I recommend going to chains.kepler.app and adding in any chain you may need to use in this video as well as future videos. Now, I think in this video, you should have all of the different chains already added to your wallet with the exception of Neutron. So I would go through here and make sure Neutron is added. And then when you have your wallet up here, you can actually click these three different bars, hit manage chain visibility, and this is where you're going to be able to select these different chains. So I have Pryzm testnet, which you are going to need for this video, as well as Neutron, which you are going to also need for this video. Outside of that, guys, I always recommend having Osmosis, Injective, and Celestia selected. Before diving into the different airdrops in this video, I highly recommend going to cosmos.leapwallet.io and actually exploring their different airdrops in this airdrop channel on the left side. And this is actually where I was able to find a lot of these different airdrops that are coming up that are in this video. And even though they don't have all of the airdrops on here, this is an absolutely amazing tool to use to stay up to date with everything happening. The next step here is actually staking your TIA in order to earn all these different airdrops that are about to come. Now, it's pretty simple to deposit TIA into your Kepler wallet. You simply hit deposit, guys. You go to your Celestia wallet, you copy that, and then you can deposit TIA. Now, you can buy TIA on a lot of different centralized exchanges, or you can use something like SimpleSwap or RocketX Exchange in order to do that in a decentralized way. Once you have your actual TIA in your wallet, you can now go to Manage Portfolio in the Kepler dashboard, and this is where you're going to see the staking options as well as governance for all of your different Cosmos-based tokens. In this video, I'm mostly covering Celestia, but if you want to check out my Injective airdrop guide, I'll have that in the description as well. Once you're able to see your dashboard, you can see the staking tab as well as governance tab. Now, I highly recommend completing every single governance that happens in the Celestia ecosystem. And please note, guys, that they haven't actually had any proposals yet. So you're pretty early. And if you ever see a proposal come up, make sure you do it because sometimes that's a requirement in order to get an actual airdrop. Now, when it comes to staking, the actual APR is somewhere between 15 and 16% when it comes to TIA, which is a pretty high amount. And when it comes to actually delegating to different validators, there's a couple tips I need to give you guys. Tip number one is that if you're in the US or some sort of country that hates crypto for some reason, make sure you're using a VPN because sometimes they can actually be excluded from these different airdrops and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So make sure you have some sort of VPN, go to somewhere like Mexico or Dubai or Portugal or somewhere that has a lot more leniency when it comes to all these different crypto airdrops. Once you do that, you can actually go to the staking tab and you can look at all of the different validators that you can stake to. Now, a rule of thumb is you're going to want to be in some validators that are outside of top 10, preferably even outside of top 25, and looking for ones that have lower commission rates and potential chances for airdrops. You also want to avoid any sort of centralized exchange one because you're not going to be getting any of those tokens and a lot of the VC-backed ones, you're not going to get any tokens as well. When you're staking, in my personal opinion, you're going to be wanting to stake at least $150 worth of TIA and each of the different validators that you end up choosing. So if you don't have a ton of money, you're going to want to just pick one of these validators in my personal opinion. Now, I'm going to go over some of the airdrops that happened in the past and why I got that $150 number, but that's probably the number that I would stick to. If you don't have $150, don't worry, guys. Some of these airdrops only required one TIA, and you would have gotten more if you had more TIA, but you only needed one TIA to actually qualify for the airdrop. Now, the validators that I personally selected are Kepler, Imperator, ZK Validator, Nocturnal Labs, Stakecedo, Enigma, Friends, and Everstake. Now, some of these have an expected airdrop. Some of them is just very speculative, but the big part, guys, is just picking one of these and putting at least $150 in my opinion. The reason I really like Kepler is because they already have the wallet that we're all using, and if they end up dropping some sort of token, we can get an airdrop there. I also saw some guys recommend ZK Validator and Nocturnal Labs for projects that might end up airdropping a token. Stakecedo I decided to stake to because I like him as a YouTuber, and I think he puts really awesome Cosmos content out there. Enigma is one of those that auto compound all of your different gains that you're getting from the staking, so you don't have to constantly claim as much, so you'll get a higher yield. And then I also put some into Friends, Everstake, and Imperator.co just to kind of diversify some of my validators. But what I would recommend, guys, if you're first getting started here, is to not actually put all of your TIA in one wallet and instead have a bunch of different wallets. A lot of these airdrops are giving more priority or more tokens based on lower amounts of the requirement. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean, guys, is that if you have 150 TIA or $150 worth of TIA and the minimum requirement was $150 worth of TIA and someone had $5,000 worth of TIA, yes, that person with $5,000 worth of TIA may get more tokens, but the proportion is actually going to be less than if you just had $150 worth of TIA. So it really makes sense, in my opinion, for every $150 you have to actually have a different wallet in order to get the most amount of airdrops. And then what I would also potentially do is have a bunch of wallets with maybe 1 to 2 TIA if you're someone that has some extra TIA to delegate to a lot of wallets and can give the time to that, because some of these airdrops might only require 1 TIA and you might be able to hit 50 or 100 with a lot less money than putting it all in one validator. So those are ultimately some of the tips that I have for you guys when it comes to these airdrops. And the last thing that I want to bring up, simply because this was something that was looked at with the Celestia airdrop, is how many times you're using the IBC in Cosmos. So what I would recommend doing on a weekly basis, guys, or every few days, is actually depositing and withdrawing these different Cosmos coins into other ecosystems. And you can do this on the Osmosis website, where you can go to the assets, and you can notice here, guys, that this 71 TIA that I have here is on the Osmos ecosystem, but I can actually deposit from Celestia over to Osmos more of these TIA tokens. I can also withdraw that, and you can do that with all of the other tokens that are in this IBC or Cosmos ecosystem. And this is one of the metrics some of these airdrops are looking for when it comes to finding active users for their airdrop. You can actually do the same thing on your Kepler wallet, guys, where you can actually click on TIA, for example, hit IBC send, and this is going to be the same exact process as Osmosis, where I can send this TIA, for example, to Neutron, Osmosis, Injective, and these are some of the things that these projects or these airdrops may look for. Now, you're probably wondering, how do I know this stuff? Where are you getting these numbers? Why are you picking these numbers? And the reason is, guys, is I've been paying attention to some of the airdrops in the past, and even though we don't know all the requirements that are going to happen for airdrops in the future, we can at least look at the history and get a general idea of what these different blockchains and projects are looking for. So when it comes to the actual Celestia token, guys, they were looking for the top 50% of active users of the top 10 Ethereum rollups by TVL, and that's because Celestia is really designed for these different rollups and L2 on Ethereum. They were also looking to see if you had at least $75 worth of Osmosis stakers and delegators in the Cosmos hub. So they were looking for people that had Osmos. They were also looking for some public contributors, people that were adding to their GitHub, and various other GitHub contributors mentioned in the article below. So this is what Celestia looked for. They were looking for around that $75 mark, as well as some of these other things that I brought up. There was also Dimension that just finished their airdrop. And this is one of those examples, guys, where they were only looking from 1 TIA all the way to 5,000 TIA. So if you had over 5,000 TIA, then all the extra TIA was actually going to waste. And that's why I recommend splitting up the wallets. But even in this situation, guys, if you had 5,000 TIA, to the best of my knowledge, you weren't getting the same proportion as if you had 5,000 wallets with 1 TIA. So that's one of the situations where you're better off splitting around $150 to as many different wallets as possible, in my personal opinion. So this is what the eligibility was for the actual Dimension airdrop. Another airdrop that happened is the Saga airdrop. So in the Saga airdrop, they did this pretty early, and they were looking for anyone that had over 23 TIA. Now that's around $350 today, but that was actually around $150 or actually less than that when they actually did this airdrop. So this is another situation where they were looking for around $150. Another one that I wanted to bring up was a token that's a meme coin that is actually launching on Odin, and this is the Dookie or Doki token. And with Celestia, they were looking for 9.9 Celestia at around $15 per Celestia. It's around 150 bucks, and that was the minimum. And then once again, they had a maximum of around 5,000 Celestia. So I would really split up your wallets if you can, guys, and try to hit that $150 number. Otherwise, you might not actually be qualifying for all these airdrops that are about to happen. Now that I got all of that background information out of the way, what's the actual first airdrop that you can start farming for when it comes to the Celestia ecosystem? So this is Milkyway, guys, and I actually already brought up this video in my injective video as kind of like a bonus, but I'm going to repeat what is going on here. Now, Milkyway is a stake, earn, and liquid protocol where you can liquid stake your Celestia. And essentially what that means, guys, is instead of staking your Celestia and then when you withdraw, you have 21 days of it being locked, you can instead deposit that TIA and you will instead get Milktia. Now, this Milktia as well as TIA should be pegged with each other, so you'll actually be able to swap your Milktia for TIA at any point in time, and at the same time, you're going to get around a 14.4% APR. Now, this is a confirmed airdrop that's about to happen, and in order to participate in this, guys, you're just going to have to connect your wallet, and you're going to deposit TIA into this and get that Milktia. Now, we don't know how much you actually need to qualify. I'm sure there's going to be a range like a lot of other projects out there, but a rule for thumb for me is I like to do around $150 for everything. That's just kind of my mindset, especially with the amount of capital I have that I try doing on these different things. Now, one thing that you have to note, guys, is when you actually deposit your TIA and get your Milktia, you can now go to the Osmosis site and you can actually go to this Pools tab. And on this Pools tab, you're going to be able to look up this Milktia as well as TIA in order to provide liquidity. Now, they're also looking for this as well. So one of the situations or one of the negatives with going for this airdrop, guys, is that all of these other airdrops that are happening in this ecosystem are most likely not going to give you any tokens if you have this Milktia. We've seen in the past that these liquid staking protocols aren't actually getting these different airdrops, so you're going to be missing out on all these other airdrops by doing this. On top of it, if you're pairing Milktia with TIA in this liquidity pool, you're also losing out on additional TIA that could have been staking because you need to provide this as liquidity. So this isn't one that I recommend for everyone, but you still get 14.5%. You know you're going to get an airdrop, and if it was anything like Jito on Solana, it ended up being a very lucrative airdrop. Now, in order to start providing liquidity, there are a couple things that you guys have to know about this pool. Because this is on Osmosis, you're going to need Osmo tokens in order to handle the gas. So in order to do that, guys, you can actually go to your Kepler wallet, you can go to the swap tab in the middle, and you can now swap any sort of token over to this Osmo token. Now, the big thing is when I'm doing the swap, I want to make sure that this Osmo token is actually on Osmosis, which it is. Once I've done that, I now have Osmo tokens in order to actually provide the gas for liquidity. Now, what I can do here is once I have that set up, I can actually hit create a position for this specific pool. And if you watch my injective video, there's actually a change here that I had to make after spending some time on this protocol. Once you have your Osmo tokens on this chain, you're going to then need to go to swap, and you're going to have to swap half of your TIA that you have on this chain for Milktia. So all you have to do, guys, is hit TIA. Then what's going to happen is you're going to hit Milktia down here, and you're going to be able to swap this. Now, I believe the actual ratios are changing depending on the amount of liquidity you want to provide, but you can simply hit something like sell half of your TIA or sell half of your Milktia if you staked your full amount, and then you'll have a 50-50 split, and now you'll be able to actually provide liquidity into their pool. When you go to check out the pool, you should now have your Osmo tokens in order to cover gas. You should have some TIA, and you should have some Milktia so that you can pair them together. Now, if you watch my injective video, I was saying you should go to manual and hit next and put a moderate range. The reason I set a moderate range is because TIA and Milktia should always be the same price. But that hasn't been true, guys. Milktia has actually gone out of range, and it's at 0.97 rather than the 1-to-1 that it should be at. So what I would recommend is I would recommend doing a custom where on your low end, you're doing something like 0.95, and on your high end, you're doing something like 1.05. And this will allow a little bit bigger of a spread, so you're not as worried about the liquidity going out of range. But yeah, guys, that pretty much summarizes what you have to do here. And once you have that Milktia and once you add to this liquidity pool, you should be able to qualify for their upcoming airdrop. The next project on this list here is going to be CS, and they actually got their Twitter suspended for some reason, so their new Twitter doesn't have nearly as many followers. But essentially, guys, CS was the first inscription on Celestia, and they actually have a whole entire marketplace now where you can actually buy and sell these different CS tokens, and they also recently added the Mias token. Now, what's interesting about this platform is they have a launch pad where you can go and buy some of these different inscriptions that are happening on their chain. Now, the big thing is their CS token is kind of their main token that they came out with, so it might make sense to buy some of those inscriptions in order to participate in their launchpad in the future, since some of these drops will be restricted to their actual CS holders. Now, I don't know if they're going to launch another token in the future. I don't know how well these inscriptions are going to be, but there could be a world where you might want to buy on their marketplace some of these CS tokens, buy a very small amount if you're willing to gamble on that sort of thing, and potentially you're going to qualify for some different drops in the future since you were early and you were making some different trades. And on the flip side, if inscriptions really blow up on the Celestia blockchain, if you have some of these SIAs and you're able to use their launchpad, it could end up being profitable. Now, this one is a little bit more speculative. I haven't gone out and bought any of these tokens yet myself, but I did actually mint some of these inscriptions when it came out, and I have a very small bag, but definitely one of the protocols to at least keep your eye on. The next project on the list here is Hyperlink. Now, Hyperlink is a permissionless interoperability layer built for the modular future. And as I said in the beginning of this video, guys, a lot of the different projects that are releasing are building infrastructure for this modular future, or simply different rollups or layer 2s on the Ethereum network or on other networks that are now leveraging the technology. Now, in order to participate in this one, you are going to be needing to stake TIA, and you're also going to be able to go on their whole entire site and do some bridging. Now, before you can bridge, you need to make sure that Neutron is added if you haven't already done that already in your wallet, and then you'll be able to go on their main site and actually connect both your Celestia wallet as well as your Neutron wallet. So when I hit connect wallet, guys, I'm able to hit this Cosmos button down here. I'm able to hit Kepler, and it is now adding that Neutron as well as Celestia wallet. I'm also going to need to add my MetaMask wallet that has the Manta Pacific network on it, which is a whole other blockchain that I made a video on recently as well. And now for this, you're going to be able to hit Ethereum, you're going to be able to hit MetaMask, and then you're going to be able to hit connect over here, and it's going to switch you over to the proper chain. So now that that's connected, I now have my MetaMask over here as well as my Kepler for the Neutron and Celestia. And if you didn't already have the Manta network, you can go to their main Manta network site and make sure that you added the Manta Pacific chain. Once I do that, guys, I'm now able to transfer some of my Celestia over to Neutron. So for this example, I'm just going to put one here. I'm then going to send to myself, hit continue, and then send Neutron. What's going to happen is it's going to pop up with the transaction where I'm going to have some TIA fees in order to do this. So all that's happening here, guys, is that my Celestia is going from the Celestia chain over to the Neutron chain. And you can see here that it takes a minute or so for that transaction to go through, and then it gives you all of the different transaction scans. Once I have my TIA on the Neutron network, it'll now say something like TIA.N. And now I can actually send this over to the Manta network. Now you can also directly send Celestia over to the Manta network as well, but one of the interesting things is that there is no reverse for this. So one of the reasons that we're going the Neutron route is that there is a reversal when it comes to the Manta and Neutron side of things. So first we took our Celestia from Celestia, we shifted it over to Neutron. Now we have that TIA.N on Neutron, and we can send that over to Manta. And then once it's on Manta, we can now send it back over to Neutron. Now there's a lot of different steps here, and it's a pain in the ass because in all reality, guys, if I try to send some of this TIA, I am now going to need Neutron in order to cover the gas fees to send this TIA. And in order to do that, once again, guys, I can go to my Kepler wallet, I can hit the swap tab over here, and now I can type in Neutron, so Neutron, and now I can actually buy some Neutron using my TIA that is then going to go on the Neutron network, and now it's going to cover that gas fee. But yeah, guys, what I would do is I would mess around with these different bridges, mess around with sending from Celestia to Neutron, Neutron to Manta, Manta to back, and do a couple of these different combinations in order to build up some credibility and build up some transactions on this whole entire protocol. And one more thing that you guys are most likely going to need is on the Manta network, you are going to need to go to their bridge, and you can type in Manta bridge, go to bridge here, and you're actually going to need to deposit Ethereum from ERC20 in order to now have that Ethereum on the Manta network to cover the gas fee of bridging that Manta-based Celestia or that Manta-based Neutron back over to the original chain. So yes, guys, this is a complete pain in the ass. I remember when I was like trying to go through it and trying to figure it out, I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. But I think over time, it's going to be a lot more smooth, and you're going to be able to use this whole entire protocol to mess around and operate within all these different modular ecosystems that are coming out. So I think this protocol actually has a lot of potential, and because it's such a pain in the ass, I think a lot of people aren't going to end up doing it. Now, the last thing I'll say is if you need some sort of guide on this, they actually had a written up guide that you can click on right here, and you can get some more details of how all of this works. But what's interesting is if you look at the incentive going on right now, not only can you potentially earn some Manta tokens by doing this, but you could also earn some of their token when they come out with it. So definitely one to pay attention to, and I don't think a lot of people are going to take the time to learn how to do this one. The next project here is going to be an easy one because I'm tired of going over the hard ones right now, and this is called Hokum blockchain. It is a fully on-chain today Ethereum L3 built with OP stack on base with Celestia underneath. So once again, they're using Celestia, and this is a very basic little gaming platform where you can play this 2048 game, and once you do this, you can get some points and you might get an airdrop with them. Now, this is a pretty small project right now, only 1,271 followers. It probably isn't even going to be worth your time, but if they end up building a lot of stuff in this chain and you're able to do this very early on before a lot of people know about it, it could potentially end up being something. The next project here is going to be one of the big ones, and this is going to be the Manta Network. I made a whole entire video covering Manta Network already, and this layer 2 has been absolutely blowing up and has had one of the highest TVLs right now out of any layer 2 out there. And with that, they are having so many different projects building in their ecosystem. And because they're building using the modular technology from Celestia, there is a very high chance that we're actually going to be getting an airdrop simply from staking our Celestia. But in order to give yourself a higher chance, you can actually deposit some of your Ethereum or some of your USDC and farm these different boxes in order to open them up and potentially get some additional NFTs and additional Manta token. So I would recommend watching that whole entire video I made if you want to participate in this. I think the deadline is the 16th. Just be aware, guys, that so many people have been depositing Ethereum onto the Manta network, so it's not actually worth it unless you have at least one Ethereum. And to be honest, guys, the APR is continually going down, so I don't know if it's worth chasing this if you haven't gotten in already, or unless you have a lot of Ethereum that you aren't using and you're willing to hold over the next next 69 days anyways. Another big thing to note about the Manta Network, guys, and I'll probably make a video about it, is they have all these different ecosystem partners as well as projects developing on this chain, and all of these different projects don't have tokens yet, so there's a chance to be getting even more airdrops by doing some different farming on this network. The next project here is called Shogun Fi, and it's a chain agnostic and borderless liquidity protocol, bringing best-in-class trade execution and capital efficiency to modular ecosystems. Now, this one isn't coming until Q4 of 2024. It's still very early on. It doesn't have that many followers as of yet, and they still don't have their testnet out. So what I would be doing with this one is just having it as a followed project and pay attention to when they have a testnet. You'll probably be able to get into this one very early, and if they end up developing something really cool here, which it seems very promising so far, it could be one of those sleeper picks that not a lot of people know about. As I said a couple times in this video, guys, a lot of the projects I'm covering are very infrastructural when it comes to this new modular ecosystem. When it comes to the settlement layer and bridging hubs, we've already had Dimension as well as Saga do their airdrops, and two other ones that have yet to do their airdrops but most likely will have airdrops is going to be Initia as well as Berachain. So Berachain is one of these EVM equivalent layer ones built on the Cosmos SDK using proof of liquidity as a Sybil resistance mechanism. And once again, they are leveraging the data availability as well as consensus layer of Celestia. So most likely there will be an airdrop from staking. They don't actually have their testnet out as of yet, so just keep an eye on their site and their Twitter, and once they have that out, you can start messing with it. The next project on the list is Lightlink. It is the infrastructure for the new internet, EVM compatible, optimistic rollup, Ethereum layer 2 blockchain offering a gasless enterprise mode. So this is another layer 2 that just recently decided to pivot and start using Celestia in their modular ecosystem. So one of the big things that you can do is you can actually complete their galaxy and start having a chance at getting the airdrop. Now, they already had a 2.5% airdrop simply for those that completed their galaxy, but if you look at their article, guys, they're actually increasing this 2.5% to a 6%, and they're going to have an additional 1, 2, and 3 phases where the remainder of this 6% is going to be released. So there's a chance to still get this airdrop if you complete their galaxy and also go into their bridge. Now, if you're bridging here, you are bridging from the Ethereum mainnet over to this Lightlink Phoenix mainnet, and this does cost a decent amount of money in gas fees. So it might not be worth doing a bunch of transactions for you, but one of the things to be paying attention to is if they start adding all these different Cosmos type coins, once they basically integrate all of their different Celestia tech. So just pay attention to this one. I haven't been farming this one as of yet, but we know there's going to be additional airdrops. They have a decent amount of hype and demand, and now that they're going to be on Celestia, there's a good chance that we can get this one too. Speaking of L2s, we have another one called Eclipse FND. This is Ethereum's fastest L2 powered by the SVM, which I believe is the Solana virtual machine. And once again, this is another layer 2 that recently announced that they are going to be using Celestia. So once again, guys, we'll probably get this one simply by staking Celestia to these different validators, as I mentioned in the beginning, but just pay attention in case they have some testnet stuff for you to be able to do those and potentially get a larger airdrop, or maybe that's one of the qualifying factors. Another potential airdrop that I wanted to bring up is called Astria. Once again, this is a very early on project. They are building a shared sequencer network, and once again are going to be operating in the Celestia ecosystem. So there's potential for us to get this airdrop from staking. And as I've said in multiple aspects of this video, simply pay attention to this account and see if they have some sort of testnet open up. And if they do, just operate on it. And there's a higher chance that you're able to get one of these airdrops. One of the common themes that you'll realize in this video is a lot of these different projects are early because this tech was only available starting 2 months ago, or back in November when they actually released the token. So it's going to take some additional time for these different projects to build on Celestia, or at least integrate them into their different L2s or rollups. Now, the next project here is another one that we know is going to do an airdrop, and this is called Pryzm. Now, Pryzm is supposed to redefine DeFi with layer 1 yield hub. So you're going to be able to trade, you're going to be able to tokenize, you're going to be able to leverage, and you're going to be able to get a future yield on this. So we know they're going to do an airdrop, and these are the 4 different things that you can do to potentially earn an airdrop, some of which are simply being in their validator on the Atom, Osmosis, and Terra chains. And I think that they're going to add another validator to the Celestia chain as well. So pay attention to this one. If you're trying to farm it, you can actually go on their testnet. And as I said in the beginning of the video, you can actually add Pryzm as one of the chains, add their whole entire Pryzm testnet to your actual Kepler wallet. And once you're in here, guys, you can connect your wallet at the top and you can go to their faucet in order to get some of these testnet tokens. So what's nice about this one, guys, is you're able to operate on their whole entire testnet without having to actually spend any money. And I'm surprised I haven't seen more people actually farm this one. But yeah, guys, once you connect that wallet and get your tokens, these are the next 5 things that you're really going to want to mess with. Go on their governance and vote on some of their proposals, make a flow trade, do a pulse trade, make a couple swaps, and open up a pool. These are pretty self-explanatory if you've done some different airdrop farming stuff in the past. They help walk you through it in the process as well. And I would do some of these transactions on a daily basis or every couple of days, as well as be on their validators, staking to their validators on Osmosis and on Atom. And hopefully you'll be able to qualify for one of their upcoming airdrops. If you remember when I talked about Berachain in this video, I also mentioned Initia and how they're also building a network of interwoven rollups. And they announced recently that they are going to be leveraging Celestia's modular data availability layer. So most likely we're going to be able to get an airdrop of this simply from staking once again. And they don't have their actual site out yet, but make sure you're following them just so that you can start doing some of these different tasks and testnet stuff when those come out. And yes, guys, the reason I'm bringing up all of these ones that don't even have their site out yet is I want to let you guys know the top potential airdrops that are coming so you can really be as early as possible, because how early you are is one of the biggest indicators of whether you're actually going to get into the project's airdrop. The next one here is going to be another layer 2, which is a network of modular move-based blockchains called Movement. Now they are building on the base layer, which is with Coinbase, but they also announced recently that they're going to be using Celestia. Now what I would recommend doing for this one, guys, is joining their community, and you can actually go to their Zealy and complete some of these different tasks. So I would get some of this XP by completing these different tasks. I joined their Discord, pay attention to any announcements, and once they have their testnet out, do some of their different testnet activities. But most of the time, guys, we'll probably get an airdrop of this anyways, even if we're just staking TIA, but it doesn't hurt doing some of these different quests on here and making sure that you get that additional XP in case that was one of the parameters. That pretty much wraps up all of the different information you need to know now about the Celestia ecosystem. Just to summarize here, guys, a lot of the different things that are building are very early, and it's a lot of business to business stuff, with a lot of these projects adding on to the infrastructure or implementing the Celestia modular technology. So a lot of these different projects, we simply have to stake our TIA to. Rewatch the beginning of this video if you want to see the different tips with that. And all of the projects that I included in this video, make sure you're paying attention to, because once they have their websites open and they have their testnets open, that'll be an additional opportunity to do some different tasks to potentially get an even larger airdrop, or maybe you'll actually have to do those different tasks in order to get the airdrop to begin with. The biggest ones that I'd be paying attention to right now, guys, that we know are going to have an airdrop and that you have to do some task for, are going to be Milkyway as well as Manta. Those are some of the bigger ones. And then on top of that, we have Lightchain and all of these other ones that are most likely just going to be having an airdrop and will probably be a pretty profitable airdrop for everyone that's staking TIA. Last thing that I want to say here is that if you wanted to join our alpha group community, we do have a Cardano NFT project called Jelly Cubes, where we cover a lot of these different plays and opportunities and all of these different ecosystems. And outside of that, guys, make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up to date on different Celestia and Cosmos information, different information on Cardano, pretty much anything that's hot in the blockchain. I'm going to try my best to cover for this channel. But yeah, guys, that wraps everything up, and I'll catch y'all later.